watching the Kate Fox Show. I'm Kate Fox, and today I am speaking with George Tsalikis. And George is a vocalist. Well, not just vocalist. You do. Why don't you tell them what you do, actually, instead of me talking for you?
Okay. So it's great. This is the thing I was worried about. The heat's going to kick
I
in
hear
as
it.
soon as we start the interview, and there it goes. So if you're hearing that loud rumbling sound in the background, that's what it is. Anyway, it's going to die out eventually, probably by the end of the interview. So what do? As Kate mentioned, I am a vocalist. I sing in a number of projects. Let's see, well, we met
Sinner.
from Sinner, the Judas Priest tribute band. So that's one.
Which is amazing. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we're okay. The singer is alright. No. Oh yeah, that's me. So I'm in that. I'm in an '80s hard rock cover band called Circle of Four, which is fun if you ever get a chance to check that out. We do the whole dress up thing with the spandex, the wigs.
Really?
Yes, we do. It's really cool.
Like, you do a lot of dressing up.
I do. I have a theater background.
That's right.
So I like doing the whole like performance thing of like putting on a full show with costumes and lights and everything. To me, that was always a draw to a live performance. That's one thing that drew me into the whole '80s genre. I mean, I grew up in the '80s. I was a kid, and that was the thing that like fascinated me. It was more than just the music. It was just the whole spectacle of it, which was incredible. So I have that band. I'm in two original projects. I have my own solo project, and I'm also in the band Overlord, which is a heavy metal group that's been around forever. And I joined them a few years ago, and we're working on a new album. And back to my solo project, my new album's coming out, as you know, at the end of the month, and I'm very excited about that. It's my second solo album that I've recorded. It's called Return to Power. So go on by it. Oh, thanks. That's all the time we have now.
Yeah. Return to Power.
Yes.
Where'd you come up with that title?
I was okay. So when I wrote my first solo album, I decided to do something a little more experimental. Now, for those of you that know me, I'm predominantly a classic metal, power metal stylist. So that's my main genre. With the first solo album I did, I said, okay, I don't have to bounce ideas off of other guys or convince other people to do what I want. So I can do anything. So what do I want to do? So having a theatrical background, I decided I want to do something. I want to do a concept album where all the songs are one story, continuation of the same story basically. And I wanted to do a video for every song so you could actually watch it as if you're watching film. And I did. The thing with that is when your focus is the story and the theatrics, you're not focusing on the style of the music as an individual song by song basis. You're focusing it on as a collective, because you want to tell the whole story in song basically. So that took on kind of a different feel. So in answer to your question, Return to Power, for the second album I decided I just want to do a straight up power metal album, you know, like I did with my old band Zandel. So I basically returned to my power metal roots, thus Return to Power.
Interesting. Now, did you write everything?
I did. I've been writing music for the longest time now. Since I started my first band, Zandel. Even before that, I'd written songs. But since '95 is when I had a collection of songs that I wanted to do. And originally Zandel started as a solo project, basically. Because I had a bunch of songs and I wanted to go and record them. So I got some fellow musicians and we went in and we did recording. And lo and behold, I started getting traction and notoriety in the metal community, and I got a distribution deal through this distributor out in Jersey. And then we released the second album, a full-length album. I had a complete band at that time. And then next thing you know, we got signed to our first record label, and we released, since then, we did two albums with that label, and then we signed a deal with another label where we did 3 more albums.
Really?
Yep. And we even did a European tour, a short 2-week tour. It was a lot of fun.
That's what happens sometimes.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a lot of fun. we had a blast, and then we came back, and unfortunately with bands, things don't always last because, you know, different people pursue different things, and there's sometimes, you know, just people just split their off and go off to do their other stuff, and it's hard to keep a band united. So that's when I decided, let me just do solo stuff, because then I don't have to worry about stuff like that.
Right.
I can just work at my own pace, and I don't have to worry about losing musicians because I'm doing all the music. So it's rewarding. It's challenging, you know, because you have to do everything yourself. Except in my case, for this last album, is the drums.
I was just gonna ask you that.
Yeah. Well, my first solo album, I did almost everything. I did everything but the drums and the guitar solos.
Really?
Because I didn't feel I had the skill to do lead guitar.
Okay.
So I did the rhythm guitar, the bass, the keyboards. I had another drummer perform, and I had another guitarist come in and do guitar solos. While I'm recording him, because I was engineering the album too.
Of course.
I was watching what he was doing. I'm watching his hands. I'm going, I might be able to pull that off. I don't know. I mean, maybe not as good as he can, because that's his main thing.
Right.
He's a guitarist. But I'm like, oh, you know. So what ended up happening was a couple years later, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna record some tribute songs just for myself. So I started recording some tribute songs and did some videos for them that I posted on my YouTube channel. And I'm like, I'm gonna try pulling off the solos, you know. And I did one. The first one I did was Rainbow in the Dark by Dio.
Okay.
And I started learning the solo and kind of playing it. And after I recorded, I was like, okay, that wasn't too terrible. You know, it was passable. So I was like, all right, I think I can do this. So I did a bunch of other songs and I posted them. And after that, I'm like, I can solo.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, right? And I'm like, so that could save me some money and I don't have to hire someone.
Right.
So yeah, basically when I went with this new album, I decided to do everything myself. Now with the drums, I didn't have the means. Notice you only got one question in and I'm not stop talking. So
That's the way I like it.
I know how to please them. The interviewees, I mean. Interviewers, I'm the E. We'll edit that part out.
I don't think we will.
Damn it! So, anyway, with the drums. Drums are a little harder to record than other instruments. For those of you that may not be familiar how it works, if you have a computer and you have an input, you could just plug any instrument into the input and record right onto your whatever program you're using. With drums, you need 5,000 microphones.
All around.
All around the drum kit. I'm exaggerating. It's about 4,009. And then you got to have a processor, which basically a board that splits all the tracks. So each, like the snare drum has one track. Each bass drum has a separate track. Yeah, it's not. See, with the other instruments, keyboard, bass, guitars, you just plug in one track and just record one track, and then switch it on the computer to do if you want to do a second track. With the drums, you got to do. Usually, realistically, it's between 8 and 12 tracks.
Okay.
Sometimes it could be upwards of 14, 15. Sometimes you can knock it down to like 6, but usually it's between 8 and 12. And you got to do it all at the same time. So one, I don't have the microphones to do that. Two, I didn't have the board to split everything up into that many channels to feed it into the computer. So I said, all right, I'm gonna program the drums and see what I can do. So I basically painstakingly programmed each drum for every song, including drum fills and everything.
That's crazy.
It was. So I sent the thing to the record label. I sent it to the label that I had Zandel on, the last one, Pure Steel Records. And they loved it. They were like, wow, this is fantastic. It's great. We want to sign you. We definitely want to release this. This sounds great. I'm like, this is awesome. He goes, yeah, send all the tracks to our engineer. We think our engineer could probably get a better mix. Like, I did a decent mix.
Okay.
But they have a professional engineer they work with. That's all he does for a living. So obviously, he should be able to get a better mix than I can. So I sent him the tracks. At which point, they realized it wasn't live drums. Which is kind of flattering because they didn't realize up until that point that they were programmed drums. And goes, yeah, we needed a live drum because it'll create a better sound.
Okay.
I'm like, all right. So, of course, I called my ex-drummer from Zandel, Joe Fu Cardillo. Joe Fu is his nickname. It's Joe Cardillo. And, he was all excited because he hadn't worked on anything since the Zandel days.
Oh wow.
Yep. And so I sent him all the tracks. He learned the stuff. He came down. He is also an engineer, and he's actually a professional engineer. So he was able to set all the microphones up and brought his
great.
yeah, he brought his board. We sat down and recorded. I had to wear earplugs because he's loud and like devastatingly loud. But he did an amazing job. He took what I had written and actually enhanced it. Like, and now, what's the big deal? The big deal is that when you're not actually playing the stuff, you can you can make it as complicated or as challenging as possible because you just like click, 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 click. Sounds good. Like, I don't have to worry about actually being able to play it. I'm just, it's basically like writing it. He played it and did it better, and added a little more flavor to it, and like all the drum fills, like he enhanced like crazy. It was amazing. We loved it. We sent it to the record label. They loved it, and well, it's coming out next month. I mean,
this month.
End of the month.
The end of the month. This month.
This
is
month.
It the 26th.
26
March
is the
26th.
official release
Okay.
date. And
You have pre-sale, right?
it's available for pre-order now. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is cool. So if you like straight up power metal mixed with classic metal, yeah, this is the album for you.
With a really good voice.
It's okay.
It's, no
I try.
self-deprecation. No self-deprecation.
No. Okay. Should I do the rock star arrogant thing?
I think so.
Like
All right, wait, let me try it again.
Okay.
With a really good voice.
The best voice. Really?
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I hate that.
Now, you know what we're going to do? So you can not like him for a minute. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back.
Hey, what's poppin', people? Brimstone here, and you're watching The Kate Fox Show.
And we're back. And George, we mentioned briefly that you have a theater background.
That's easy for you to say.
Clearly not. We mentioned you have
Take two.
Oh,
Oh, wait. We're not editing out the bloopers.
No, we're not.
Oh, well.
People appreciate my buffoonery. I am a buffoon, thank you. We have an assistant here in the studio today, and that would be my son, and he's heckling me while we do this interview.
Which is awesome.
So, George.
Yes.
We said earlier that you have a theater background.
We did.
When did you start doing theater?
Okay. So theater I started, I don't remember the year. It was the early 2000s.
Okay.
What ended up happening was I was dating someone at the time who wanted to go see Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway because Sebastian Bach from Skid Row was in the title role.
Okay.
And before then, I really wasn't big into theater.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, part of it had to do with I only saw like 2 theatrical productions prior to that, which was Cats.
Hey!
Sorry.
Hey! I loved it. Both times I saw it.
Do you know what the story's about?
Yes, just shut up.
Okay. Because I still can't figure that part out. And Miss Saigon, which was actually fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem was, I saw Cats when I was 17. It was part of a school trip. And so as a 17-year-old, I just couldn't appreciate it.
Well, especially if you're not into theater, that particular production is a little bulky.
Exactly. When I saw Miss Saigon was later, I was in college. I enjoyed the production, but I was in college, so I couldn't afford the good seats. So, when you're watching something from the nosebleed section, you don't really get immersed into it as much. I enjoyed, but again, it wasn't really my cup of tea. But then we went to go see Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway, and I remember I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get good seats. Now I'm thinking in terms of rock shows, you want to be up front, right by the stage.
Oh.
So I got front row seats. Yeah, I mean now I understand like if you sit a few rows back, it's actually better, but it was still really cool. So here I'm sitting right in the front row where I'm watching this story unfold, and what I was really impressed by that I don't know why I didn't notice this before is the level of talent that these singers and these actors have on that stage. It's like when I heard their voices, I was like, wow, holy crap, this is amazing. Because like I said, up to that point, I was more hard rock, heavy metal type of singing, and they just blew my mind. And some of these guys were upstaging Sebastian Bach. okay, all these guys were upstaging Sebastian Bach.
Oh.
No, they were really good, and it's not
As they should be.
Yeah, and it's not a shot at Sebastian Bach. He killed it. He did amazing. But when you listen to these guys sing, because they had more of like a legit operatic style
Well,
singing.
yeah, they were trained for that type
Right.
of performance.
It was super impressive. And the thing I remember seeing, I think I was in my mid to late 20s at that time. And I remember watching them and seeing the diversity of the people on that stage. Now, one of the things I noticed as a fan of the hard rock heavy metal is that most musicians, most bands, especially the more popular ones, they tend to be on the younger side. And once they get older, they're not pushed by the wayside, but they're not as in the forefront. It's usually still, unless it's a nostalgic thing where you're legendary. But for the most part, it's the younger bands that get out there. So you always have that mentality, like, unless I get to a level where I'm selling out arenas, I'm not gonna be able to do this when I'm older. I don't want to be like that, the 60-year-old guy in a bar trying to be cool with like tight jeans or spandex or whatever. Although my thoughts on that have changed. But at the time, when you're in your 20s, you're thinking, oh man, when I turn 40, I'm not gonna want to do that. It's gonna be pathetic. I'm way past 40.
Barely.
Just barely. So I see this production where these guys are like, like I said, all age ranges, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I think there may be even someone in his 60s up on that stage, like singing with such power and passion. And I'm like, if I can't do the rock thing or the metal thing when I get older, this is an option for me. I can still continue being a performer. So then I'm like, okay, I really enjoyed the show and I like the music. It actually drew me in. So I bought the soundtrack and I became obsessed. And I'm like, this is awesome. And the soundtrack didn't have Sebastian Bach on it. It had the original singer.
Right.
I think I bought two soundtracks because there was a British version and there was a New York version.
Oh, you really got hooked.
I got totally hooked. And to the point where I knew all the songs, like all the lyrics. I could sing the entire score to you. And I wanted to do it. That was it. That became my obsession. Like, I wanted to play this part. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go audition for this part. This is where it gets funny. So I'm early in my Zandel career. And as a local singer, I had trained. I had formal training in singing. Not much, but some.
Okay.
And I worked really hard. And compared to a lot of the other local singers, because this is now early 90s, early mid-90s. No, I'm sorry. My mistake. Late 90s, early 2000s. The music scene in New York especially didn't cater to power metal or classic metal. It was more like the new metal, the rap rock. So there was a lot of rapping, more yelling, the screamo kind of stuff.
I can't do the screamo stuff.
No, I understand. And it's not my taste either. So for me, compared to those guys, I was killing it as a singer because I was going with the more traditional metal sounding vocals.
Right.
Bruce Dickinson, Jeff Tate, Rob Halford, that style of singing. So my ego was swelling because everywhere we played, people were like, oh my God, you sound amazing. Are you trained as an opera singer? I'm like, no. I mean, thinking back to the way I sounded then, I'm like, you thought that was good? Because, I wasn't bad, but I developed a lot over the years. But I digress. So basically, I'm like, I'm going to do this role. So I saw an audition notice. I'm like, oh, okay, there's an audition notice for the Westchester Community Theater. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I didn't know what that was at the time.
Oh, wow. Go on.
I did not know what that was at the time. That's it's like a regional theater, if I'm not mistaken.
The Westchester, I believe so. Now I'm rusty because I haven't been, but we probably have crossed paths.
It's not a community theater.
No.
Let's put it that way. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with theater, there's different tiers. Okay, Broadway being the top tier. Then there's the touring companies, the regional theaters. Then you have community theater. Community theater is basically, anyone can put together a theater group. You rent out a space, you put on a production.
High school, church, whatever.
Right,
also.
whatever. Some of them have higher quality, some have lower quality, but the bottom line is it's theater developed and produced by the community itself. Right. You don't have professionals coming in to do it. In fact, what I found out later, if you're in the equity union, which is the union for actors in theater, you're not allowed to do
That's why
non-theater work,
That's why
non-equity
people use
work.
different names when they do community theater.
Sometimes they do, yes, which kind of messed up. Because you're taking away like the opportunity from people that aren't in equity, that can't do professional theater at that level.
Yes.
But anyway,
I have known. Yes.
right.
Yes.
Now at the time I found out about this audition, I didn't even know what equity was. I had no idea.
So you were just.
I just saw Jekyll and Hyde audition. I'm there. Boom. So I go there. I'm like, I kick ass. I'm awesome. And this is why I don't like being arrogant, because it bit me in the ass really bad that time.
It does.
So I'm like, I'm awesome. Every show I do, I blow away all the other singers off the stage. I can sing. These guys just rap and they scream. And also Jekyll and Hyde, Sebastian Bach did that. He's a metal singer.
Oh, no.
I'm a metal singer.
Oh.
I want to blow these actors out of the water.
Oh.
Now, why did I think that? I saw an interview with Sebastian Bach who said pretty much the same thing, except he's famous. I'm not. Especially then. So I went in with Sebastian Bach's arrogant attitude, thinking, I'm gonna blow these guys out of the water. I'm thinking it's also community theater. It's not. I didn't realize it was so big. Apparently, this is a big regional theater, and what's the actor's name? Anthony Criccioli, the original actor who played Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway, was directing it.
Ouch.
Didn't know that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go there. I had never auditioned for a theater thing before. This was my first audition ever in anything theatrical. I go in there and there's like packed with actors, like, you know, and they're all like, you know, going over their parts and this and that. And I walk in there, I'm like, I didn't really feel intimidated, because at the time I had really long hair, and I'm thinking, you need long hair. These guys have short hair. Yeah, they're wigs, idiot. I did not think about theater. So I'm like, all right. I go to sign up for the thing, and they're like, are you equity? And I had no idea what the hell that meant.
Oh.
And I just gave them a blank stare, like, huh? And they're like, all right, just sign in. Okay, I signed in. I sat down and I waited. And then they took us in teams of 10 people to this other area where you're going to go audition. Now, we all waited outside while each person went in the room to sing. And I could hear them through the wall. And I'm thinking to myself, at that point, I realized I stepped into something that was a little beyond me. I'm hearing them sing, I'm going, this is live. How is he sounding like that live?
Oh my.
On a studio recording, you just do it over and over until you get perfect.
Right.
And you could add effects, some reverb, you know, a little that. This was live, and they were like their voices were so powerful and like incredible. And I'm like, oh boy. All right, I'm gonna go in there and not gonna move this up. Do my best. I went in there and I felt so uncomfortable. There was a table full of people watching me, and I sang one of the songs from the show, which also not a good thing apparently.
Oh.
You. And they're like, okay. They were very polite.
I'm having anxiety right now.
No, I didn't even realize I was like embarrassing myself at the time I was doing it.
Which is good.
Yeah, exactly. So I performed. I stopped, and they're like, okay, thank you very much. Took my stuff. I went outside, and they're like, okay, I want the following people to stay for the next round of auditions. And they called a bunch of people, and I was not one of them. So I got on the elevator, went down, and started heading back. And that's when it hit me. I'm not as good as I thought I was. And I just embarrassed the hell out of myself. But I was still determined to do this role. And I auditioned for another theater company. Do we still have time, or do we have to cut the
Keep
commercial?
talking.
Okay.
Keep talking.
So I found another audition for this theater company in Jersey.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm going to give it another go. This time I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to really train to get this down. So, and I knew the score. I could, like I said, I could sing every song. And I had, because of the rock metal background, I had the ability to go into the high voice.
Yes.
A lot better than I think most people who sing just legit or have more of an operatic background, because of the being able to do the what I know now is called vocal fry, which is that raspiness that you can get into the vocals. So I went there. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna nail this. So I go there and I audition, and they like me. And it was down to that, and I did my initial audition, and the guy goes, okay, can you stick around? I'm like, of course.
Yes, I can.
Basically. So it was down to me and one other guy. And they paired us up with these two girls that were going for the lead female role.
Okay.
And we sang a bunch of stuff. They gave us different things to try. They tested my range, which that wasn't a problem. Again, metal background, I can hit the rafters with my high notes. And no Broadway show goes that high except for like Rock of Ages or things
Right.
that incorporate rock music. So yeah, it felt great. And they were like, thank you, all right, we're gonna let you know. He goes, I'll let you know either way. Now, typically when you audition, they don't let you know either way.
Correct.
If you get a call, you're in, and if you don't, that's it. So basically you walk out of the audition thinking, okay, if I don't hear from them, I'm done.
Right.
The guy calls me, I think it was a day or two later, and he goes, I really wanted to give you the part. You were perfect for it. He goes, the only thing that kept me from giving it to you is that the other guy had a resume on like the length of his arm with experience. You have no theatrical experience. He goes, I know, and he even told me at the audition, he goes, oh, you're trying to pull a Sebastian Bach. I'm like, exactly. Like, he knew. And I was like, I didn't feel that bad because at least I knew I had the ability, the talent to do it. It was just the experience. And he even suggested, he goes, go out there, do other shows. And I had a friend of mine from my job, an older gentleman who was involved in theater, and he even said, he goes, just go out there and do anything.
Yeah.
Like, just get involved in theater. Be in the ensemble. Take any role you can get. And then eventually you build up the resume, and when the opportunity comes, you can do that role. And that's what I did. And it became an obsession, where I was doing show after show after show after show.
Well, once you get in, you don't want to get out.
Well, the funny thing is I did my first show, and a year later I had my first lead in a show. Again, community theater. It wasn't like, don't think
Hey.
But, yeah, I know, but no self-deprecating. But I'm so good at it. No, but in other words, I wasn't like going off and doing professional theater work and making like, tons of money. It was community theater. But again, a year later, from getting your first ensemble role to doing a lead, again, it's also a lot of times with community theater, you don't have as much competition, especially if you're a guy versus, not too many guys go into community theater.
Correct.
So yeah, and then I started doing it. And eventually, I got the opportunity to do it, and I ended up doing the show that I wanted to do, which was great. So, and then I went on to do other shows, which was a lot of fun. One of my favorite shows I ever did, one of the best productions I was fortunate to be a part of, was Les Miserables, where I played Javert, and that was really cool. It was a fantastic production. It was with a company in Staten Island called In the Wings.
You go all over the place.
Yes, I'm a performance whore. No, I'm kidding. I'm more of a slut. I don't get paid that much. So yeah, it's that was great. So that's my theater background, and then I went into film. But I guess
we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
So the look of shock in her face.
In a world where 80s music is considered outdated, where hard rockers like Bon Jovi and Def Leppard are thought of as old school, where arena rockers like Journey and Styx are believed to be antiquated, and where metal masters like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest are deemed ancient, one band dares to defy today's trends to bring you the best hard rock and heavy metal from the age of big hair and spandex. That band is Circle of Four. With Joe on drums, Paul on bass, George on vocals, and Tito on guitar, they are New York's premier 80s hard rock cover band, Circle of Four.
Forgot your keys. I forgot my keys. Dude, just fade to the clips.
And we are back. And George, before we took a break, before we stopped to take a break, you mentioned now film?
Yes. I after doing my stunt in the theater, I started getting involved in some film projects because I became very fascinated with the whole acting element.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I like film. I like watching movies. I want to do that. That's cool. So I did some student films. The thing. Okay, so I equate theater to film the way I equate playing a live show to recording an album.
Yes.
Very similar. There are pluses and minuses to both. The pluses to live performance, whether it's theater or whether it's a live band performance, is that you get the instant gratification from the audience.
And the energy, right?
And the energy, exactly. You know, you get instant feedback. Like you do something great, they applaud. If it's theater and you do something comedic, they laugh, and you get that instant gratification. It's awesome. With the recording, whether it's a film or an audio recording, you get perfection, or as close to it as you can, because now, again, like I said before, you just basically do it over and over until you get it right, and that's the take you keep. You know, like these, we're gonna edit all the bad stuff out, right?
Sure. Yes.
Anyway, so it's basically, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, you get one thing gives you gratification one way, the other thing gives you gratification in another. When you complete a project, when it's recorded, you have the finished product in your hand. You're like, wow, look at all the hard work I did, it's here. Whereas with a live performance, it's like, that was a nice memory. So that's basically what you have.
It was a great show. Wow,
Yeah.
what a great show.
Now, someone might film it, and you could have that, you know, to watch back and be like, wow, I did that. That's cool. But again, the level of perfection is not going to be the same, unless you get a super expensive professional quality. Hey, there's the heat kicking in again. We should do this in the summer next time.
All right.
Anyway, we'll talk louder so they can hear us over the rumbling sound of the boiler. Anyhow, and that gets louder. I like that. Anyway, so yeah, so I got into film. I enjoyed the acting element, and I did a bunch of student films. What I didn't realize then is that they don't always produce them and give you copies. So you do a bunch of work for nothing.
Oh.
That became frustrating. Because the first few, okay, we film, it's a wrap, we're gonna get you the because they tell you they're gonna give you copies of the footage, the final product. And a bunch of them I did, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, you know. But then others, you're like, I spent several days working on this project with you. Am I gonna get a copy? And then nothing. So that became frustrating. So that's when I decided to get my own video camera and start, do my own little productions here and there. Now, where do I do these productions? Mostly, I did some music videos, as I mentioned earlier.
Right.
I started producing myself because I felt it gave me more control over the whole process.
Yeah.
If I wanted it done by a certain time, I can make that happen. If I'm relying on other people, I didn't get around to it. I'll get it to you next week. 6 months later, yeah, no, I'll get it to you soon. So sometimes it's better to just do it yourself. I learned a lot from doing it myself, basically. But I started incorporating that into making commercials for my Circle 4 80s hard rock cover band. Because of the whole spandex and wig stuff, we decided to take on a little bit more of a comedic element to the band. Because you can't put on spandex and wigs and take yourself too seriously. I mean,
Correct.
you can, but it's more fun when you don't. So I started making these little commercials with little cutaway scenes and just silly stuff, which if you go to my Facebook page, they're all up there. So you can see all the commercials. They're still up there with all the jokes.
I have to go look now.
Oh yeah, and so some of them, I'm happy with the way they came out. Let's put it that way. Because I'm producing myself. I'm not gonna say some of them came out great. You say, of course, I made them, so of course I'm gonna say that. Right. So I'm happy with the way they came out. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. People cracking up, saying, "Oh, this is very funny," and love it. And they never come to the shows, but they like the commercials. Thanks. So I started incorporating that, and it was, it was just fun to do. Just going out there doing like various things like music, acting, video production, audio engineering, just incorporating everything I've learned over the years and being able to just put together a whole project. It's very fulfilling.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So tell me about you. What do you like?
You have a very well-rounded background for what you do.
Well, thank you.
Really, it's and as we're listening, I'm like, and I think I said this the last person I spoke to. You know someone, you meet someone, you're acquainted, you're friends, whatever, and then you sit down to talk to them, and you sit. At least I sit here going, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wait, you did what? And it's so refreshing to actually hear all of the things that make up who you are as a performer.
Well, cool. The reason a lot of times people don't realize I have all this other, I don't want to say hidden talent because it sounds very like self-indulgent.
Stuff they're not aware of.
Stuff they're not aware of is because, like, if we had this conversation outside of this environment where we're being interviewed
Right.
for informational purposes, it would come off this very like self-absorbed.
That's true.
Like, let me tell you about myself. Did you know I did theater? And and then I got into film. Oh, let me tell you about my music career. I'm amazing. Where you going? So in typical.
Fair enough.
Right. When I meet
Fair
people
enough.
in person, I'm like, oh hi, nice to meet you.
Right.
You're great.
Right. How's life? What's going
Or
on?
like in our case, we met at the Center show.
Uh-huh.
So you're like, oh, you did a great show. I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you for coming. It was great. We had a blast. I hope you did too. That's it. I don't go on and on about all the other stuff I'm doing because that's.
Maybe you should carry your resume around and you can hand it out like a party favor.
Thank you guys for coming out. Now, if you check under your seats, I've got signed autographed headshots with attached resumes so you can find out all about me. Good night. I said that'd be kind of weird.
I really kind of
Although-
want to see it though now.
That would be funny though. Hey, watch people reach on that. I was kidding.
Oh my. Oh my. Now I want
If I do this, you can blame Kate.
I'll take the blame. I own the things that I do to other people. I do. That's my son again heckling me. So
That's a
now,
little ominous too.
right?
I own the things I do to other people.
Yes, I do. Was that a good evil laugh or a bad one?
Good.
Okay, we'll pretend it was good. Now, I should say, thank you for having us here because we're in your home studio.
You are, yes.
It's quite lovely.
Thank you.
Not all of the instruments are in this room because we're working.
Yes, I have some work being done tomorrow here. Actually, all that rumbling noise you heard before, the oil heater, is actually right over there. You don't have to show it, but it's basically on that side of the room. And I got people coming to replace it tomorrow, so I had to clear out all the other instruments to be out of their way.
But they got a good visual. Of
Yeah,
what
so
you've
I
got
left
here.
the, well,
I
like
like
again, film background, I understand you need.
Oh, really?
See, it all ties in. So, yeah, so I left this to have an interesting kind of background, since we are talking mostly music.
Absolutely, absolutely. But
Yeah.
now, okay, so talking music. Now we
Music.
know on March 26th,
Yes.
your new record will be released officially
To the world.
to the world. So we will have links for that. So you should really go check it out. He actually is, I have to say honestly, you are, I'll say local because I've seen you locally. You are one of my favorite local vocalists.
Wow, local vocalist.
Local vocalists. You listen, I love your
And
voice.
if I
and you
was
know.
crazy in
That
Spanish,
sounded-
I'd be a local vocalist.
That sounded so stupid, but
I
it is
know.
what it is. But seriously, I love listening to you sing. I
Thank
love
you.
watching
Thank
you
you.
perform.
I love singing.
Truthfully, it's very.
That's why we get
evident.
along.
It is true. It is true. But now, you have the record coming out.
Yes.
Do you have anything else new that you would like us to know about?
As I mentioned before, the band Overlord,
that's right, yes.
which I'm also a part of, we're finishing up we're actually in the mixing phase of our new album. So I have another record coming out with Overlord, hopefully by the end of the year.
Okay.
Before the end of the year, I should say. What else do I got? I got a couple of shows coming up.
Which would be where?
Funny you ask. So April 10th?
10th is
Thank
New
you.
Jersey.
Like, what's the date? my phone to check the dates on it. April 10th, Sinner, the Judas Priest tribute
Yes.
band, will be performing at Dingbats in Clifton, New Jersey.
And if you can
that's
go,
funny.
go. It is, if you haven't seen them before,
I'm definitely going.
I believe I am as well.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
That's
That's
awesome.
the plan.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's gonna be it's a lot of fun. I love doing the Judas Priest tribute
It's,
stuff.
it's you guys.
It's so cool.
It's great. And what else? Where else?
And then on.
It's a little too much heckling.
Audience participation. No, it's fine. It's fine. May 15th, we're playing at the Halftime Sports Bar, I think, in New Jersey.
Okay.
In New York. I think it's called the Halftime Sports Bar. Double check that. It's on our Facebook page.
On your Facebook page, which would be what?
Sinner, the Ultimate Judas Priest Tribute. Search for it. It'll come up.
And that'll be on the end too. I'll put it
Sure.
on the back
Awesome.
end.
Awesome. I have, like I said, I have a bunch of videos that I posted actually from the last show.
Okay.
On my YouTube channel, so you can check that out. You could Google YouTube search me, George Tsalikis. You could put in Judas Priest. You could put Sinner. You could put basically my name and any heavy metal thing, and you'll get to my page,
Okay.
and you can check that out.
And subscribe.
And yeah, of course, do the subscribe, like, all that YouTube stuff. I don't pressure people. Do whatever you want. If you like it, great, awesome. But if you subscribe, I'll be able to do more stuff, and you'll be notified when you know how it is. I'm bad at self-promoting.
No, I'm.
I
It's
really
okay.
am.
We're working it. It's
I
okay.
just like performing. It's like, yeah. So what else I got going on? That's more or less it.
Okay.
I don't have anything other shows, unfortunately, because of the whole pandemic situation.
Well, but I hear tell that things are starting to book and open
That's
up.
good.
So I've heard a lot of rumblings, and
Cool.
I hear they're starting to book in April and on. So you should
Nice.
be getting some stuff coming up soon.
Awesome. That's good news. I like that. I'm happy to hear that.
So yeah, it's thank the Lord.
Yeah, and the weather's getting nice, so get to go out there and enjoy the outdoors, and not be stuck in the freezing, snowy, wintry weather.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true. Well, I want to say, what?
I don't like winter. It's my least favorite season.
I love snow.
Okay, it's my
Nice.
fourth favorite season.
Oh, that was a good one. I like the way you did that. Oh my gosh, George. I've had. See,
You can
this
steal
is
that.
this is when I have the. Oh, this is all going in. This is all going in. Just so you know.
That's what he said, Joe. But I won't say it. I said it, didn't I?
You did. You
Oh.
did indeed. And you just. Yeah.
Only because you repeated it like 3 times. I'm like, okay. My juvenile side is just
That's okay. I'm a 15-year-old boy, emotionally
I was
or
gonna
humor-wise.
If you're a 15-year-old boy, you need to go see a doctor like right now.
So yes, I'm adolescent in something, so that's
Ah,
okay.
yeah, cool.
But I want to say, I'm having too much fun. It's ridiculous. Thank you for talking to us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And people, really check him out. You will be very happy that you did. George Tsalikis.